Our next guest lighting up the Senate floor just before lawmakers voted on the $900 billion stimulus bill. Senator Rand Paul blasted his fellow Republicans as no better than socialist in his now viral speech. Watch.
This bill is free money for everyone. Maybe these new free money Republicans should join the Everybody Gets a Guaranteed Income caucus. To so-called conservatives who are quick to identify the socialism of Democrats, if you vote for this spending monstrosity, you are no better.
Now, with more is the Republican senator from Kentucky, Senator Rand Paul. Senator, Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for being here with us. A lot of people, absolutely, good morning. A lot of people loved what you had to say on the Senate floor. React to the recent developments, because it's been exposed how much pork is in this. When you tie an omnibus to an emergency bill like COVID-19, everyone throws their prerogatives of Washington into the bill. Is there a way in which, if some of that was stripped out, you could support one-time additional payments to individuals beyond $600, or is it both that you object to, sir?
You know, it'd be great if there were actually that alternative. If they said, oh, we'll quit spending money on selfies to see if selfies make you happy, or we'll quit sending money on the mating call of Panamanian frogs. But guess what? They never do that. They always add it. No one ever takes away any spending. That's my big gripe. It is, of course, Festivus, so I can tell you why I'm unhappy with all these jokers. The thing is they never take away wasteful spending. They only add more to it. And the bottom line is the only way we recover as economy is we've got to open the economy up. Unemployment is actually lower than it was during most of President Obama's term. So we really can recover, but we got to get these governors out of the way of our restaurants and our bars and our venues. We got to get the economy opened up. Is the only way we survive this.
You know, Senator, one of the most important things I think that you said in that floor speech is that Congress is enabling lockdown behavior from Democrats who have taken this way too far in terms of stifling their own economies. But in the meantime, President Trump last night said that he wants $2,000 checks going out. Is that something that the Senate and Congress can do before next week?
You know, I saw the president's speech, and we've actually included it this morning as part of our Festivus celebration because he was on a rant, and so am I. He was unhappy with all the spending to Pakistan and Sudan and all these far-flung places where we aren't taking care of our own. The problem is if we were to get more money to Americans, we would add it on top. If it were an either or, it'd be a little bit different situation. But I can tell you from experience in Washington, these jokers never replace spending. I've asked for it all along. Like, I've asked them, look, if you want to build infrastructure in our country, quit spending $50 billion a year on infrastructure in Afghanistan, but I never get them to bite. They'll add it on, but they'll never do the responsible thing and exchange wasteful spending for useful spending.
Senator, I've long said that fiscal conservatives is now an exhibit at the Smithsonian to go and see from the 90s because both parties are spending like drunken sailors, it seems, in the last decade or more. But my question to you this morning is, so what do we do at this very moment? Pete talked about it a little bit earlier this morning about whether something could actually be done, or does what the president has done now put Mitch McConnell and Republicans in a very difficult spot here at the end of the year?
Yeah, the thing is you need better people. There was only 6 or 7 of us who, opposed this smorgasbord of debt. But if you ask the American people, should we spend money we don't have? Should we run a balanced budget? I'll bet you 75% of Republicans will tell you they'd rather have conservatives in Washington. The people in Washington run as conservatives. Like when President Obama was in power, they said it was terrible, the spending and the debt and all this, and now they're no better. I told people in my speech that it's not that the difference in parties is Adam Smith versus Marx. It's really Marx versus Engels. And I don't think they're happy to hear that, but they're always talking about socialism, and so am I. But that bill yesterday was a bunch of socialist spending. And if you voted for it, you're no better than the Democrats. And so that's the problem we have. People need to get involved in primaries and elect better people. But the people in Washington are bankrupting us, both parties.
It's hard to refute what you say there, Senator, when it's a 5,593-page bill that you have 6 hours to attempt to read, which means, of course, no one reads it, and leadership has all the prerogatives and their giveaways. You've been front and center in trying to expose this for years. You've got a Festivus report, which we've now can confirm is your favorite holiday. Here's a portion of some of the things in there. $10 billion on botched COVID-19 test tubes, lizards walking on. I mean, that seems like it has to be fake, but I don't think it is. Walking on treadmills, finance a taxiway for airplanes on Nantucket Island. It goes hot tubs. See if they reduce stress, which we all know, of course, is true, but I don't know why we need to study it. What shocks you the most when you go through our budget and realize how much money we're wasting?
Here's one of the worst. The National Science Foundation spends about $8 billion every year. William Proxmire started complaining about it in the early 1970s. One of their first projects was, back then, $50,000 to study what makes you happy. Well, last year they spent about $1 million, inflation, I guess, about $1 million. If you take a selfie of yourself while smiling and then you look at it later on, will that make you happy? That's the kind of stuff your government's doing. We got a bridge that's broken over the Ohio River. We've wanted a new bridge for 10 years, and we send money to Pakistan for gender studies. For my goodness sake, we can't build our own country because we're too busy rebuilding everybody else's country. It's what President Trump has always gotten right. It's why President Trump got all these new blue-collar workers into our party, because they're sick and tired of sending money, shoveling it overseas, and they want it here at home. But the thing is the establishment Republicans, I call them the big government Republicans, they never were on Trump's side, and you can tell, he butts heads with them. They like the spending. They've been doling it out ever since they've been up there, and I don't know how it ends until we get new people up there.
It's true. Senator, I'm going to try that study right now on the air. I'm going to smile, look at it later on the program, see if I feel better.
I hope you do.
I'll be in a hot tub later. So if you want to send me $2 million to study stress, that'd be great. Senator Paul, we are dealing with a pandemic. Obviously, the vaccine's been rolled out. You criticized Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for getting the vaccine ahead of more vulnerable populations. She has now responded to you. Do you have a response to her?
Well, the thing is I think the most vulnerable should get this. All along, I think we should have been protecting the most vulnerable. Now we have a way to protect them. Until everybody in the nursing home who has not got a vaccine gets one, till every 80-year-old, 70-year-old, 60-year-old, 50-year-old, 40-year-old gets one, AOC ought to be at the end of the line waiting her turn, because she's at very, very low risk. But we're not using any science here. So, for example, I've also said if you've had it, you ought to be at the end of the line. I've had it. And so I might be a little higher risk than AOC, but I'm a much lower risk than an 85-year-old in a nursing home who doesn't have it yet. And so really what we need to do is we need to pay attention to immunity. The thing is, if you're in the nursing home and you've had it, we should give it to the other patient in the nursing home who hasn't. We have like 18 million people have had it. They do not immediately need it. I'm not saying they can't take the vaccine at some point, but they really don't need to be first in line. Let's get the most vulnerable done before we get to the least vulnerable.
And Senator, I would finally just add that we need our members of Congress, senators and representatives vaccinated so they can be in Washington working here on important legislation. I want to just leave it by putting you on the spot here. If the president does veto this legislation, will you vote to override?
The thing is that I hope he vetoes it. But the only way I would vote for any spending or any additional spending is if it came out of existing spending. So if they want to cut the $30 billion we shovel and send overseas, I'm happy to vote for that. And we can discuss where we can spend it here in our country. I think there are a lot of things. I think giving money, though, to people who are already working. Look, my kids are working and don't need a check. They're not rich, but they don't need a check. And most working Americans don't need a check right now. It's a really foolish, egg-headed, left-wing socialist idea to pass out free money to people. So I part ways with the president on giving people free money. We should help those who are unemployed by extending unemployment, but we shouldn't add to unemployment. There are things we can do. Look, in 2008, President Obama extended unemployment. They didn't juice it up by giving people more money not to work than they work. So we've done a lot of terrible ideas that are much worse than what we criticized President Obama. President Obama is now a conservative when it comes to stimulus, because his unemployment didn't juice it up. He just extended it. We didn't give cash payments back then, but the cash payments is a ridiculous, terrible, foolish, no good idea, because you're just printing out money to give to people. Why not do it all the time? Give people 1,000, 10,000, why not 1 million? It's a terrible idea, and it's going to ruin the value of our currency ultimately.
It's a scary world where former President Obama is a fiscal conservative. Senator Rand Paul, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Senator.
Thanks, guys.
Merry Christmas and happy Festivus.